"She's too broken to be loved," her mother said. The words carried across the great hall of Valdren, sharp and deliberate, meant to wound, meant to remind Serene of what she was, what she lacked, what she would never have. Among shifters, the wolf was everything: identity, power, worth. And Serene had none of it. No inner beast stirred beneath her skin. No flickering eyes when emotions ran high. She was hollow where others were whole, empty where others burned with primal fire. 23 years of silence where a wolf should have howled. Her mother, Lady Vespera, had made certain everyone knew. Every noble family, every potential suitor, every whispered conversation in every corner of the realm. Her daughter was defective, cursed, a shell without a soul. So when the Alpha King arrived seeking a bride, Serene hadn't even been presented. She'd been hidden in the servants' corridor, watching through a crack in the door as her younger sister Mira was offered like a prize. But then her mother spoke those words, and the Alpha King turned, Caius of Valdren, ruler of 5 territories. A man so powerful that other alphas lowered their eyes in his presence. A man who hadn't taken a mate in 32 years of life because no one could survive being loved by him. He walked past Mira without a glance, past her mother's stunned face, past the guards who scrambled to stop him. He found Serene in the shadows, and he said 2 words that changed everything. "She's mine." Neither of them understood then what those words would cost, what loving a broken woman would do to a cursed king, or what happened when 2 people who believed themselves incapable of love discovered they were wrong. The great hall of Valdren had never seen such a gathering. Serene watched from the servants' corridor, pressed against cold stone, her eye aligned with the narrow gap between door and frame. She shouldn't be here. Her mother had forbidden it. But something had pulled her from her chambers tonight, some restless ache she couldn't name. Perhaps it was knowing that her sister would be chosen. Perhaps it was wanting to see the Alpha King, just once, before spending the rest of her life forgotten. The hall blazed with candlelight. Noble families from every territory had gathered, their daughters arranged in a glittering line before the empty throne. Silks and jewels, perfumed skin and carefully arranged hair. Each woman more beautiful than the last, each radiating the warm glow of a healthy wolf beneath the surface. Serene could feel them even from here. That hum of inner beasts, that pulse of life she'd never possessed. Mira stood at the center of the line, dressed in ivory and gold. At 19, she was everything Serene was not. Vibrant, whole, beloved. Their mother stood beside her, one hand resting possessively on Mira's shoulder. Lady Vespera was still beautiful at 48. Sharp cheekbones, silver-streaked hair, eyes like winter lakes. She'd been a great beauty once, had married a powerful lord, and had expected to produce powerful heirs. Then Serene had been born, wrong from the first breath. Silent where she should have cried with the voice of her wolf. Empty where the beast should have unfurled. Serene's father had loved her anyway, had held her close and whispered that she was perfect, that the wolf would come, that she must simply wait. He'd died when she was 12. After that, there was only her mother. The great doors opened, every head turned, every breath caught. Even through the crack in the door, Serene felt it. A pressure in the air. A weight that pressed against her chest and made her pulse stutter. The Alpha King entered. She'd heard stories. Everyone had. Caius of Valdren was a legend wrapped in shadow. The youngest king in 3 centuries, crowned at 19 after his father's mysterious death. Conqueror of the southern wastes. Destroyer of the Black Maw Rebellion. A ruler so powerful that his presence alone could force lesser wolves to their knees. But the stories hadn't prepared her for the reality. He was tall. That was the first thing she noticed. Taller than any man she'd ever seen, with shoulders broad enough to block the doorway. His hair was dark, almost black, falling past his collar in waves that caught the firelight. His jaw was carved from granite, his cheekbones sharp, his mouth set in a line that suggested he'd forgotten how to smile. But it was his eyes that stopped her breath. They were gold. Not the flickering gold of a shifting wolf, but solid, burning, permanent. As if his beast lived not beneath his skin but behind his gaze, watching, always watching. Those amber eyes swept the room. The noble daughters preened. Mira lifted her chin, letting the light catch her perfect features. Lady Vespera's smile sharpened with triumph. Caius walked forward. He passed the first daughter without slowing, the second, the third. His expression revealed nothing. His scent, Seren realized with a jolt, revealed nothing either. Where other alphas radiated dominance like heat from a fire, he was contained. Controlled. Cold. He stopped in front of Mira. Lady Vespera's smile widened. "Your Majesty, my daughter Mira is the finest. Where is the other one?" The words cut through the hall like a blade. Vespera's smile froze. "I beg your pardon, Your Majesty? You have 2 daughters." Caius didn't look at her. His wolf-bright stare remained fixed on some point past Mira's shoulder, seeing something no one else could see. "Where is the other?" Silence. Serene's blood turned to ice. "The other?" Vespera's laugh was brittle. "Your Majesty must be mistaken. I have only one daughter worthy of—" "I don't recall asking about worth." The king's voice was soft, terrifying in its softness. "I asked about location. She's broken." The words spilled from Vespera's mouth, desperate, damning. "Too broken to be loved, Your Majesty. She has no wolf, no beast. She's empty, defective. She would bring shame upon. She's mine." The hall erupted. Gasps, whispers. Someone dropped a goblet, and wine spread across marble like blood. Lady Vespera staggered backward as if struck. But Seren couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think beyond those 2 impossible words echoing in her skull. "She's mine." The king turned. He walked toward the servants' corridor. Toward her. Seren stumbled back, her chest tightening with panic. He couldn't know. He couldn't possibly know she was here, hidden, watching. The door opened. Burning amber met her gaze. Up close, Caius was even more devastating, even more terrifying. His presence pressed against her like a physical force, and Seren felt her knees buckle. But she didn't fall. Something inside her, something that had been silent for 23 years, stirred. "There you are," the king said softly. And though Seren had no wolf, no beast, no power to speak of, she felt something ancient and sleeping crack open one eye. The carriage moved through darkness. Seren sat rigid on the velvet seat, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Across from her, the Alpha King sat in perfect stillness, his burning gaze fixed on her face. He hadn't stopped looking at her since they'd left. The scene in the great hall kept replaying in her mind, her mother's horror, Mira's disbelief. The guards who had tried to intervene, only to freeze mid-step when Caius turned his stare upon them. And then his hand, extended toward Seren in the shadowed corridor. She'd taken it. She still didn't know why. "You're afraid," Caius said. It wasn't a question. Seren's throat tightened. "Yes," she admitted. There was no point lying. He could probably smell it on her, the sharp tang of fear that made her feel more like prey than person. "Wouldn't you be?" Something flickered behind his eyes. "I don't remember what fear feels like." The words were strange, empty. Serene studied him in the dim light, searching for some clue to what he wanted from her. "Why me?" she asked finally. Caius tilted his head slightly. "Does it matter?" "It matters to me." For a long moment he didn't answer. His gaze moved over her face, her hair, her hands, cataloging her like she was a document he needed to memorize. Seren fought the urge to shrink away. "Your mother called you broken," he said at last. "Too broken to be loved." Seren flinched. Hearing it again, in his voice, made it worse somehow. She wasn't wrong. She was. The certainty in his tone startled her. "But that's not why I chose you." "Then why?" The king leaned forward. In the close confines of the carriage, his presence was overwhelming. Seren could smell him now. Something dark and sharp, like smoke before a wildfire, like the moment before lightning strikes. "Because you have no wolf," he said quietly. "No beast, no heat." Seren's stomach dropped. "You chose me because I'm defective?" "I chose you because you're safe." The word hit her like a slap. Safe. Not beautiful. Not worthy. Not special. Safe. "I don't understand," she whispered. Caius sat back, and for the first time Serene saw something crack in his perfect control. A muscle twitching in his jaw. A flicker of something dark in those amber depths. "I have a curse," he said, "passed down through my bloodline for 300 years. The moment I fall in love, truly, deeply love someone, my heart ignites, burns itself out. I die within days." Seren stared at him. "So you chose me," she said slowly, "because you believe you could never love a broken, wolfless woman." "Yes." The honesty was brutal, absolute, and somehow, perversely, it was exactly what Seren needed to hear. No false promises, no pretty lies, just the cold, clean truth. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "A wife, a queen, an heir, if possible." Caius listed the terms like items on a treaty. "You will live in luxury. You will be protected. You will want for nothing. In return, you will share my bed until you conceive, attend state functions, and never," his eyes hardened, "never attempt to make me love you." Seren should have been insulted, should have been devastated. But all she felt was a strange, numb relief. Her whole life, she'd been told she was unlovable. Her mother had made sure she believed it. And now a king was confirming it as if it were a gift. "If I refuse?" she asked. "You return to your mother." The words hung between them. Seren thought of Lady Vespera's face, the cold fury that would be waiting, the punishment for embarrassing her before the entire realm. She thought of the servants' corridor, the shadows, the years stretching ahead, invisible and alone. "No love," she said quietly. "No affection, no intimacy beyond what's required." "Correct. You'll never care for me, never even pretend to care." "I can't pretend." Something shifted in his expression, almost like regret. "Even small affections are dangerous with this curse." Seren nodded slowly. She should feel devastated. She should weep at the coldness of this bargain, at being chosen specifically because she was unchosen. Instead, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Free. "I accept," she said. Caius exhaled, just slightly, as if he'd been holding his breath. "Then we have a contract." He extended his hand. "Welcome to Valdrin, future queen." Seren took his hand. His skin was hot, burning hot, as if fire lived beneath the surface. She gasped at the contact, and Caius's eyes widened fractionally before he pulled away. "You're warm," Seren breathed. "And you're cold." His voice had changed, rougher, lower. "Colder than any wolf I've ever touched." She didn't know what that meant. But when his burning stare met hers, something in his carefully controlled expression flickered. And Seren wondered, for the first time, which of them was truly the dangerous one. The castle of Valdrin rose from the mountains like a beast of stone and shadow. Seren stared through the carriage window as they approached, her breath fogging the glass. She'd heard the stories, of course. Everyone had. The fortress that had never fallen, the walls that bled enemies' screams during sieges, the throne room where the Alpha King's grandfather had executed 300 traitors in a single night. But stories hadn't prepared her for the sheer scale of it. Towers clawed at the gray sky, banners snapped in a wind that smelled of snow and pine, and everywhere, carved into stone and woven into fabric, the sigil of House Valdrin, a wolf consumed by flames. "Does it please you?" Seren turned. Caius sat watching her, his expression unreadable. "It terrifies me," she admitted. "Good." The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. It should. They passed through 3 sets of gates. Each one required guards to verify the king's presence, to bow and scrape and murmur welcomes. Each one gave Seren more time to wonder what she was doing here. Then the carriage stopped. The door opened and a blast of cold air hit her face. Seren shivered, drawing her thin cloak tighter. She hadn't been allowed to pack anything from her mother's house. She had nothing but the dress on her back. A hand appeared. She looked up. Caius stood outside the carriage, his arm extended, his wolf-bright eyes reflecting the torchlight. "My lady," he said. The formality felt strange. Mocking, almost. Serene took his hand. Again, that burning heat. Again, that jolt of something she couldn't name. She stepped down onto frost-covered cobblestones and nearly fell when her slippers found no grip. Caius caught her. His arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her against his chest. For one breathless moment, Seren was pressed against solid muscle and scorching warmth, his heartbeat thundering against her cheek. Then he released her. "Careful," he murmured. "The stones are treacherous." She didn't know if he meant the courtyard or something else entirely. They walked through the castle in silence. Servants bowed as they passed, their eyes curious, their whispers barely contained. Seren felt every stare like a blade between her shoulder blades. "They know," she thought. "They know I have no wolf. They can sense the emptiness in me." She lifted her chin. Let them stare. Let them whisper. She'd survived worse. Finally, they reached a door. Caius opened it himself, gesturing for her to enter. The chamber beyond was beautiful. A canopied bed draped in deep crimson, a fireplace already blazing, thick carpets covering the stone floor, windows overlooking the mountain range, the peaks dusted with snow. "Your rooms," Caius said from the doorway. "Servants will attend you shortly. Rest tonight. Tomorrow, we announce the engagement." Seren turned. "So soon?" "The realm needs stability. A queen provides that." His tone was businesslike, cold. "The wedding will be in 3 days." 3 days. Is that a problem? She thought of her mother, of Mira, of the life she was leaving behind. "No," she said quietly. "It's not a problem." Caius nodded once. He turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing." Seren waited. "You asked why I chose you." He didn't look at her. His voice was strange, distant. "I told you it was because you're safe." "Yes." That wasn't entirely true. Her blood rushed faster. Caius finally turned. His amber gaze burned in the dim light. "I also chose you," he said slowly, "because when I walked into that hall, something inside me woke up. Something that's been asleep for 32 years. Seren stopped breathing. "I don't know what that means," the king continued. "I don't know if it's dangerous, but I intend to find out." He left before she could respond. Seren stood frozen in the center of her new chambers, her mind reeling, her pulse racing. Something woke up in him when he saw her. A woman with no wolf, no beast, no power. What could possibly wake in the presence of emptiness? Unless, she thought wildly, unless I'm not as empty as everyone believes. The fire crackled. Shadows danced on the walls. And somewhere deep inside Seren, in the place where a wolf should have lived, something stirred again. Something that had been waiting. Something that was almost ready to open its eyes. Hours later, a servant brought her dinner. The woman was young, perhaps 18, with auburn hair and nervous hands. She set the tray on a table near the fire and curtsied deeply. My lady, I'm Nell. I'll be attending you during your stay. During my stay? Seren asked. I thought this was to be my home. Nell's face flickered. Fear? Pity? Something in between. Of course, my lady, I misspoke. Seren studied her. What aren't you telling me? The servant's hands twisted in her apron. Nothing, my lady, only. Only? Nell glanced at the door, then quietly. The king has had fiancés before. Seren's blood chilled. And? None of them made it to the wedding day. The words hung in the air. Seren's chest tightened. What happened to them? Nell's voice dropped even lower. The first was Lady Corinne. She lasted 2 months before she walked into the mountains and never returned. They found her at the bottom of a ravine. And the second? Lady Irina. She made it further. Almost to the wedding day. But the night before the ceremony, she set fire to her chambers with herself inside. Seren's stomach twisted. There was a third? Nell nodded, her eyes haunted. Lady Thessaly. She was different. Stronger, people said. She actually married him. Married him? Then why? She died on their wedding night. Nell's voice trembled. The king's curse. When they completed the mating bond, his fire passed into her. Her body couldn't withstand it. They said she burned from the inside out, though there wasn't a mark on her skin. The room felt suddenly airless. The king carried her body out himself. Nell continued. He didn't speak for 3 months afterward. Some say he chose her knowing she might survive his heat. When she didn't, she trailed off. Seren sank into a chair, her appetite gone. The curse didn't just kill kings who loved, it killed anyone bonded to them. And she had just agreed to become his wife. The knock came at midnight. Seren had been lying awake, watching shadows crawl across the ceiling, when the sound broke the silence. She sat up, her breath catching. Who's there? The door opened. She expected Caius, expected burning eyes and difficult questions. Instead, she got someone worse. Lady Vespera swept into the room, still dressed in her traveling cloak, snow melting in her silver-streaked hair. Behind her, 2 guards stood in the doorway, their faces uncertain. Mother, Seren whispered. Vespera's smile was poison. Did you think I would let you humiliate me and simply disappear? How did you? I have allies everywhere, foolish girl, even in the king's household. Her mother circled the room like a predator, trailing one finger along furniture, across fabrics. You think you've won something. You think you've escaped. Seren stood. Her legs shook, but she stood. I've escaped you. The slap came fast, hard. Seren's head snapped to the side, pain exploding across her cheek. You've escaped nothing. Vespera gripped her chin, forcing Seren to meet her eyes. You're going to refuse this marriage. You're going to tell the king you were mistaken. And you're going to come home where you belong. No. The word came out stronger than Seren expected. Vespera's eyes widened. What did you say? I said no. Seren pulled free, stepping backward. I won't refuse, I won't go home, and I won't let you control me anymore. Silence. Then Vespera laughed. It was a terrible sound. Cold. Delighted. Wrong. Oh, sweet child, she murmured. You think you have a choice. She reached into her cloak and withdrew something small, a vial, dark liquid swirling inside. Do you know what this is? Seren's stomach dropped. Wolfsbane extract, her mother continued. Concentrated, lethal to any wolf within minutes. But you don't have a wolf, do you? So it won't kill you. It will simply... She smiled. Put you to sleep. Long enough for me to take you home. Long enough to make the king believe you fled in the night like the coward you are. Seren backed toward the window. The king will know. He'll come for me. Will he? Vespera advanced. He chose you because you're safe. Because he'll never love you. Do you really think he'll pursue a woman who rejected him? His pride would never allow it. She was right. Seren's stomach sank as she realized her mother was right. Caius had been clear. No love, no attachment. No reason to fight for her beyond the convenience of their arrangement. If she vanished tonight, he would simply choose another. Now then, Vespera uncorked the vial. Shall we do this the easy way, or shall I call my guards to hold you down? Seren looked at the vial, at her mother's triumphant face, at the guards blocking the only door. And something inside her snapped. Not broke, not crumbled. Snapped awake. Heat flooded her veins. No, not heat. Cold. Freezing, absolute cold that raced through her blood like glacial water. Her vision sharpened. The room seemed to brighten, shadows retreating from something that had no name, no form, but suddenly, undeniably, existed. Vespera froze. What? She breathed. Is that? Seren didn't know, but she felt it. Rising, expanding, filling the hollow spaces that had been empty for 23 years. Get out, Seren said. Her voice was different, layered, as if something else spoke with her. The guards stumbled backward. One of them whimpered. Vespera's face went white. The vial slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. This isn't possible, she whispered. You don't have a wolf. You can't. Get out! The windows rattled. The fire died to embers. Frost crept across the floor in crystalline patterns, and Lady Vespera fled. The door slammed behind her. Seren collapsed to her knees, shaking violently, her skin too cold, her breath too fast. The presence inside her retreated slowly, curling back into the darkness, settling into silence. But it was there now. She could feel it. After 23 years of emptiness, something finally lived inside her. And it was hungry. The wedding took place at sunset. Seren stood before the mirror in her chambers, barely recognizing the woman who stared back. The gown was exquisite, deep crimson silk that clung to her body like a second skin, embroidered with threads of gold that caught the dying light. Her dark hair had been swept up, exposing the pale column of her neck. Rubies dripped from her ears and throat. She looked like a queen. She felt like a sacrifice. You're beautiful, my lady. Nell stood behind her, hands clasped, eyes shining with something that might have been genuine warmth. The young servant had been different since that night. The night Seren's mother had fled. She looked at Seren now with a mixture of awe and fear that made Seren deeply uncomfortable. What happened to Lady Thessaly? Seren asked quietly. You said she burned from the inside. But she chose to complete the bond, didn't she? She knew the risk. Nell's face fell. She thought she was strong enough to survive it, my lady. She loved him, truly loved him, and she believed that love would protect her. It didn't. No. Nell's voice was barely a whisper. The king's fire is... It's not natural fire. It's curse fire. It feeds on love. The more she loved him, the more it consumed her. Seren stared at her reflection. The more she loved him, the more it consumed her. And Seren had agreed to share his bed, to let him mark her, to bond with him. My lady? Nell touched her arm. Are you well? I'm fine. Seren straightened her shoulders. Let's not keep the king waiting. The great hall of Valdrin blazed with 1,000 candles. Nobles from every territory had gathered, their faces hungry with curiosity. Who was this unknown woman the king had chosen? This wolfless creature plucked from obscurity? Seren walked the aisle alone. No father to give her away. He was long dead. No mother to bless her. Vespera had vanished after that night, recalled to her own territory in disgrace. No sister, no friend, no ally. Just Seren. And at the end of the aisle, waiting before the altar, the Alpha King. Caius wore black. Of course he did. The color seemed to absorb light around him, making his burning stare brighter by contrast. His face was carved from granite, beautiful and terrible, utterly expressionless. But when Seren reached him, when she stood close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body, She saw something flicker in those amber depths. Recognition. As if some part of him had been waiting for her without knowing it. "You came," he murmured, too low for anyone else to hear. "Did you expect me to run?" The others did. His jaw tightened. Eventually, Seren thought of Lady Corinne in the ravine, Lady Irina in the flames, Lady Thessaly burning from the inside out. "I'm not the others," she said. Something shifted in his expression, almost like surprise, almost like hope. The priest began the ceremony. The words washed over Seren like water. Ancient vows, binding promises, declarations of loyalty and devotion. She repeated them when prompted, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. And then came the moment. "You may mark your bride," the priest announced. The hall went silent. Among wolves, marking was sacred. The alpha would bite the curve of his mate's neck, leaving a scar that proclaimed ownership that bound their souls together across lifetimes. But Seren had no wolf to receive the mark. Caius stepped closer. His hand rose to cup her jaw, tilting her head to expose her throat. Serene's pulse spiked beneath his palm. "This will hurt," he said quietly, but only for a moment. She didn't flinch. "I'm not afraid of pain." His eyes darkened. "No, I don't think you are." He lowered his mouth to her neck. The bite was sharp, quick, searing. Serene gasped as heat flooded through her, not just pain but something else, something that raced through her veins like wildfire that made the cold presence inside her stir and stretch and reach toward his teeth. Caius jerked back. His face had gone pale. His breathing was ragged. He stared at her with an expression she couldn't read, confusion, alarm, and beneath it all, naked hunger. "What are you?" he breathed. Blood trickled down her throat. The wound burned like a brand. "I don't know," Seren whispered. "I thought I was nothing." "You're not nothing." His hand pressed against her neck, over the bite mark, over the blood. "You're something. Something I've never encountered." The priest cleared his throat nervously. "Your Majesty? The vows are complete. You may kiss your bride." Caius's burning gaze never left hers. "May I?" he asked. Such a small question, such enormous weight behind it. "Yes," Seren breathed. He kissed her. His lips were scorching. The heat of him surrounded her, consumed her, and pulled at something deep in her chest that she hadn't known existed. The presence inside her rose, reaching, yearning toward him with desperate hunger. And for one terrifying, glorious moment, Seren felt whole. Then Caius pulled away. His hand trembled where it still pressed against her throat. His breath came in sharp, shallow gasps. "Something's wrong," he rasped. "Caius." "The curse." His wolf-bright eyes blazed with fear. "It's stirring. Already. That shouldn't be possible." He stumbled back a step. "Your Majesty?" The priest moved forward. "Are you unwell?" Caius straightened with visible effort. His face smoothed into its usual mask, cold and controlled. But Seren saw what lay beneath now. She saw the cracks. "I'm fine," the king said flatly. "The ceremony is complete. Let the feast begin." He offered Seren his arm. She took it, and felt the inferno burning beneath his skin. The wedding feast passed in a blur of faces and false congratulations. Seren sat beside Caius at the high table, accepting well wishes from nobles whose eyes slid over her with barely concealed disdain. Wolfless, empty, broken. She could see the words forming behind their polite smiles. But she was queen now, and the king had chosen her. Caius spoke only when required, his responses clipped and formal. He didn't touch her again after that moment at the altar, kept careful distance between them, his hands gripping his goblet as if he feared what they might do if freed. Seren watched him, the tremor in his fingers. the sweat beading at his temples despite the cold hall, the way his jaw clenched every few minutes, muscles working as if he fought against something internal. The curse was stirring. He'd said it shouldn't be possible, that it took love, real love, to trigger it. And they didn't love each other. They barely knew each other. So why was his body already betraying him? "You're staring," Caius murmured without looking at her. "You're suffering," she replied. "It's difficult not to notice." His hand tightened on the goblet. "I'm fine." "You're lying." Finally, he turned to face her. Those amber eyes were fever bright, burning with an intensity that stole her breath. "Careful," he said softly. "Caring about my suffering could be dangerous, for both of us." "I don't care," Seren lied. "I'm simply protecting my investment. If you die, I lose everything." Something flickered across his face. Disappointment? Relief? She couldn't tell. "Smart woman," he said. "Hold on to that pragmatism. You'll need it." The feast ended at midnight. The wedding chambers had been prepared with excessive care. Rose petals scattered across the bed, candles filling every surface with soft, dancing light. Wine waiting in crystal decanters, every romantic detail designed for a night of passion between eager newlyweds. Seren stood in the center of it all, suddenly terrified. She'd accepted his terms. She'd agreed to share his bed, to give him heirs. But that had been abstract before. Theoretical. Now it was real. The door opened. Caius entered slowly, his movements careful. Controlled. He'd changed from his wedding clothes into simpler attire, loose shirt, dark trousers, but the effect was somehow more devastating, more human. He stopped several feet away from her. "You're trembling," he observed. "I'm not afraid of you." "That's not what I said." He took a step closer. "You're trembling. Not from fear." Seren's cheeks flushed. He was right. The trembling wasn't fear. It was anticipation, awareness, every nerve ending alive with the memory of his kiss, his bite, his burning hands. "We don't have to do this tonight," Caius said quietly, "despite what custom demands. You need an heir, not urgently enough to force you." The consideration in his voice made something crack in her chest. This cold king, this man who swore he couldn't love, was offering her kindness she hadn't asked for. "I want to," Seren heard herself say. Caius went very still. "Be certain," he warned. "Once we begin, I don't know if I can control myself with you. Something about you affects me, affects the curse." "I know." "It could be dangerous." "I know that too." She stepped toward him. Caius didn't retreat, but his hands clenched at his sides, and she could see the effort it cost him to remain motionless. "Why aren't you running?" he asked roughly. "Every other woman I've touched has felt it. The heat, the danger, the wrongness of what I am." "Maybe I'm wrong too." Seren reached up, her fingers hovering just above his chest. "Maybe that's why you chose me." His hand caught her wrist before she could make contact. His skin was scorching, almost painful against hers. "This is madness," he breathed. "Yes." She pressed her palm flat against his chest. The heat slammed into her, not just warmth, but fire, rushing through the contact point, flooding her veins. The sleeping presence inside her surged in response, reaching toward him with desperate hunger. Caius groaned. His control shattered. He pulled her against him, his mouth finding hers with bruising intensity. The kiss was nothing like the ceremony. That had been careful, public, restrained. This was fire and need and something almost violent in its desperation. Seren wrapped her arms around his neck, rising on her toes, pressing herself closer. She couldn't get close enough. The cold inside her clawed toward his heat, wanting more, needing more. He lifted her. She barely registered movement before her back hit the bed, his body covering hers, his weight pressing her into the rose petals. His mouth traced down her throat, finding the bite mark he'd left earlier. "I should stop," he gasped against her skin. I'm feeling... Don't stop." Her fingers found the laces of his shirt, pulling, tugging, desperate to feel more of his skin against hers. Caius helped her, yanking the fabric over his head, revealing a chest carved from muscle and marked with old scars. He was beautiful, terrifying and beautiful and burning so hot she wondered if he'd leave marks on her skin. "You're cold," he said, hand sliding beneath her gown. "So cold it almost hurts." "Is that wrong?" "It should be." His mouth found a spot beneath her ear that made her gasp. "Every wolf runs hot. Every shifter I've ever touched burned against me. But you..." His teeth grazed her earlobe. "You're like snow, like ice, like something not entirely mortal." The words should have frightened her. Instead, they made the presence inside her purr with satisfaction. They moved together in darkness and firelight, learning the landscape of each other's bodies. His hands mapped her curves with fevered attention. Her fingers traced his scars with curious reverence. And with each touch, each kiss, each whispered breath, something built between them. Something that felt dangerously close to connection. Afterward, Seren lay in the circle of his arms, her cheek pressed against his chest. His heartbeat thundered beneath her ear, too fast, too strong, but he held her with a gentleness that contradicted his intensity. "That wasn't in the contract," she murmured. "What wasn't?" "Holding me. You said there would be no affection." Caius was silent for a long moment. "I find myself unable to let go," he admitted finally. "It's inconvenient." Despite everything, Seren smiled. "Inconvenient?" "Highly." His arm tightened around her. "You should sleep. Tomorrow will be difficult." "Why?" "Because I'll have to pretend tonight didn't affect me." His voice roughened. "And every moment pretending will be a lie." Seren tilted her head to look at him. In the candlelight, his amber eyes had softened, the usual coldness replaced by something almost vulnerable. "Would it be so terrible?" she asked quietly. "To be affected?" "It would be fatal." The word hung between them. Seren lowered her head back to his chest and said nothing more. But as she drifted toward sleep, she finally admitted the truth she'd been avoiding. She was falling for him. This cold king with his burning curse and his impossible bargain. This man who chose her because he thought she was safe, who held her like she was precious despite swearing he'd never care. She was falling, and she couldn't stop. And the cold presence inside her, that hungry, waiting thing, was falling with him. 3 months passed. 3 months of nights that Seren learned to crave like air. Each evening, Caius came to her chambers. Each evening, he touched her with that desperate, reverent intensity that made her feel like the only woman in the world. And each morning, he left before dawn, his mask firmly in place, his walls rebuilt against the daylight. The court whispered. They whispered about the wolfless queen who shared the king's bed every night. About the way his eyes followed her across rooms. About the strange energy that crackled between them during state functions. About the fact that the king seemed to be weakening. Serene noticed it first in small ways. The tremor in his hands during breakfast. The sweat on his brow after climbing stairs. The way he sometimes paused mid-sentence, pressing his palm against his chest as if something inside him burned. "You're worse," she said one night, tracing the lines of his face in the darkness. "Don't deny it." Caius caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "I'm fine." "You're lying again." "I'm always lying." His smile was sad. "It's the only way to survive." But she felt the heat radiating from him, hotter than before, almost feverish. And when she pressed her ear to his chest, his heart raced at a pace that couldn't be healthy. "Is it the curse?" she whispered. He didn't answer. "Caius, talk to me." "There's nothing to say." He pulled her closer, burying his face in her hair. Just let me hold you. That's all I need. But it wasn't all he needed. And Seren knew, with growing certainty, that something was very wrong. The healers came in secret. Seren wasn't supposed to know. Caius had forbidden the staff from discussing his health, but Nell was loyal now, loyal to the queen who had shown her kindness. 3 healers this week, Nell whispered, helping Seren dress one morning. They leave looking terrified. One of them was crying. What did they say? Nothing. They refused to speak of it. Seren's hands clenched. Where is he now? The king went to his private chambers after the last healer left. He's been there for hours. Seren strode through the castle, her blood rushing and her mind racing. She found him in his private chambers, not the study, slumped in a chair before a dying fire, his shirt discarded, his chest bare. And on his skin, spreading from his heart like fractures in glass, were lines of glowing amber. Seren stopped breathing. It's beautiful, isn't it? Caius said without turning, the curse made visible. What is that? My death. He laughed bitterly. Happening in slow motion. She crossed the room, dropping to her knees before him. Up close, the lines pulsed with inner light, warm to the touch when she pressed her fingers against them. This shouldn't be happening, she said desperately. You said the curse activates when you fall in love. You said... I know what I said. His burning gaze met hers, and in it, she saw the truth he'd been hiding. I was wrong, Caius whispered. I thought I could control it. Thought I could have you without caring for you. Keep you close, without letting you in. Serene's chest cracked. I was a fool. His hand rose to cup her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. I've been falling since the moment I saw you hiding in that servant's corridor. Fighting it every day, losing more ground every night. Then stop. Tears blurred her vision. Push me away. Stop coming to my chambers. You said you wanted nothing from me. I said a lot of things. His smile was broken. None of them true. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead against hers. I love you, Seren. The words hit her like a blade. Don't, she begged. Take it back. You can't. I've tried not to. For 3 months, I've tried. His breath shuddered. But it turns out I'm not strong enough. Not with you. The glowing lines on his chest pulsed brighter. Caius winced, his hand flying to his heart. He doubled over, a strangled sound escaping his throat. Caius! She caught him as he collapsed, his weight bearing them both to the floor. His skin was blazing, hot enough to burn, hot enough to blister. The amber lines had spread, crawling up his neck, down his arms. Get help! Seren screamed. Someone help us! Guards burst through the door. Servants followed, their faces white with terror. But Caius gripped her hand with the little strength he had left. It's too late, he gasped. There's no cure. There never was. I won't accept that. Tears streamed down her face. There has to be something. There isn't. He was fading. She could see it. The light in his eyes dimming, the fire in his blood consuming him from within. But it was worth it. Loving you was worth it. Don't you dare die on me? She gripped his face, forcing him to focus on her. You don't get to choose me, make me fall for you, and then leave. That's not... She stopped. Seren? Caius's voice was weak. What is it? You made me fall for you, she repeated slowly. The presence inside her stirred. You made me fall, she whispered. And I never even noticed. Because she'd been so focused on him, on his curse, on his danger. She'd never stopped to wonder why she felt so drawn to him. Why her body responded to his touch like water to flame. Why the emptiness inside her had begun to feel less empty. What are you? Caius had asked, that first night. She finally understood. Seren pressed both palms against his burning chest, against the glowing lines of the curse, and reached for the cold inside herself. The presence didn't resist. It surged upward, cold and ancient and impossibly vast, filling her, consuming her, pouring through her hands and into Caius's body. Frost spread across his skin, the guards screamed, servants fled, but Seren didn't stop. She felt the curse now, felt the fire of it, the hungry, consuming blaze that fed on love and burned hearts to ash. And she felt her own power rising to meet it. Cold against heat, ice against fire, death against death. Seren. Caius's eyes flew open, wide with shock. What are you doing? You'll destroy yourself. Maybe. She smiled through her tears. But I love you too. And if you're going to burn, I'm going with you. The collision of powers built to a crescendo, heat and cold, fire and ice, love and love and love. Then everything went white. When Seren opened her eyes, she was lying on the floor of Caius's chambers. The fire had burned to embers. The windows had shattered, frost coating the broken glass. And beside her, utterly still, lay the king. The glowing lines were gone. His skin was cool, not cold, not burning, just normal, human. The fever that had plagued him for months had broken. Caius. She touched his face with trembling fingers. Caius, please. His eyes opened. Amber, clear and full of wonder. You saved me, he breathed. Seren started to cry. Not from fear this time, but from relief so profound it shattered her. You stupid, stubborn man. She pressed her forehead to his. You nearly died. Seemed like a reasonable price. His hand found hers, weaving their fingers together. For you. Nothing is worth that. You are. He sat up slowly, pulling her with him. His gaze roamed her face as if seeing her for the first time. Whatever you are, whatever you did, you pushed back the curse. I can feel it. It's weakened. Dormant. Dormant? Serene's breath caught. Not destroyed? Caius shook his head slowly. The fire is still there. Still waiting. But something is holding it at bay. He touched her cheek. You're cold. Whatever lives inside you, I don't know what I am. Seren shook her head. I don't even know what I did. Caius smiled. A real smile, warm and gentle. Nothing like the cold masks she'd grown accustomed to. Then we'll find out together, he said, before the curse wakes again. He kissed her. And for the first time, his lips weren't burning. They were just warm. But in the shadows of the doorway, unnoticed by either of them, a figure watched with calculating eyes. Lady Vespera had returned. And she had brought something far worse than wolfsbane. The days that followed were fragile, precious things. Seren spent them learning the shape of happiness, learning what it meant to wake beside a man who no longer burned with curse fire, learning how to smile without fear, to laugh without waiting for punishment. Caius was different now. The coldness that had defined him, that careful, controlled distance, had melted away like frost beneath spring sun. He touched her freely, casually, as if he couldn't bear to be apart from her. His hand finding hers during council meetings, his lips brushing her temple as they passed in corridors. Small intimacies that made the court whisper and stare. The wolfless queen had tamed the Alpha King. But Seren knew better than to believe in endings. Something had changed inside her when she'd pushed back the curse. The sleeping presence, that cold, ancient thing, was awake now. Fully awake. She could feel it coiled beneath her skin, watching through her eyes, waiting for something she couldn't name. And she still didn't know what she was. You're brooding again. Caius's voice pulled her from her thoughts. They were in the royal gardens, walking the path between winter roses, frost crunching beneath their boots. His hand was warm in hers. Warm, not burning, and the simple pleasure of it still amazed her. I'm thinking, she corrected. Dangerous habit. He lifted her hand to his lips. What troubles you? Everything. Seren stopped walking, turning to face him. The curse is dormant, but we don't know why. We don't know what I am, or where my power came from. My mother is still out there, plotting God's know what. And the curse could wake again at any moment. We'll handle your mother. Will we? Seren's voice sharpened. She got into the castle once. She'll try again. And next time, she might succeed. Caius's expression darkened. She won't touch you. I'll station guards. Guards didn't stop her before. The truth hung between them. Seren pulled her hand free, wrapping her arms around herself. The cold didn't bother her. It never had. But she needed the comfort of the gesture. I need answers, she said quietly. About what I am. About why I was born without a wolf when every other shifter has one. About why my touch can hold back curses that have lasted for generations. Caius was silent for a long moment. There might be someone who knows, he said finally. Seren looked up. Who? My grandmother. His jaw tightened. She lives in the northern mountains, a hermit by choice. She was there when the curse was first cast on our bloodline. If anyone understands what you did, what you are, it would be her. Hope flickered in Serene's chest. Will she see us? She'll see me. Caius's smile was grim. Whether she'll help is another matter. They left at dawn. The journey north took 3 days, through frozen forests and over mountain passes choked with snow. Caius insisted on traveling light, with only a handful of guards who remained at the base of the final peak. Seren understood why. Whatever secrets waited in those mountains, they weren't meant for public consumption. On the 3rd night, they reached the cave. It was carved into the mountainside, hidden behind a waterfall that had frozen into a curtain of ice. No path led to it. No markers indicated its presence. If Caius hadn't known exactly where to look, they would have walked past without noticing. Wait here, Caius told the guards at the tree line. He took Seren's hand and led her through the ice. The cave beyond was larger than she expected, a network of chambers lit by glowing crystals embedded in the walls. The air was warm, impossibly warm, as if summer lived inside the mountain. And at the heart of it, seated before a fire that burned without fuel, was an ancient woman. She was small, withered, her face a map of wrinkles and her hair a cascade of pure white. But her eyes, those eyes were sharp, gold, like Caius's, burning with an intelligence that belied her frail appearance. Grandmother, Caius said formally, I've come to ask. I know why you've come. The old woman's voice was surprisingly strong. Sit, both of you. They sat on furs spread before the fire. The warmth seeped into Seren's bones, and she realized with a start that she could feel it. Actually feel it. The cold inside her had retreated. You pushed back the curse, the old woman said, studying Serene with those piercing eyes. I felt it, even here. 300 years of accumulated fire, forced into dormancy in an instant. I don't know how, Seren admitted. Don't you? The old woman smiled. Look deeper, child. The answer is inside you. Seren closed her eyes. She reached for that cold presence, that ancient thing that had saved Caius's life. It stirred at her touch, unfurling slowly, allowing her to see. Images flooded her mind. A woman made of ice, walking through a winter that never ended. A wolf carved from snow, howling at a moon made of frost. A kingdom beneath the glaciers, where creatures of cold lived and loved and died in their own eternal cycle. And a child torn from that frozen realm, thrust into a world of warmth and wolves. Her true nature suppressed, her memories erased, her power locked away. Seren gasped, her eyes flying open. There she is, the old woman murmured. The winter wolf. I don't understand. Seren's voice shook. I can't be. You are. The old woman leaned forward. Centuries ago, our curse began with fire, a witch of flame, spurned by the first Alpha King, cast a spell that would destroy any king who dared to love. Fire consuming hearts, heat burning through bloodlines. She gestured at Seren. But the old magics seek balance. For every curse of fire, there must be a counter of ice. For every burning heart, a frozen one waiting to cool it. "You're saying I was made to break the curse?" Seren whispered. "I'm saying you were born for it." The old woman's gaze softened. "Your mother knew. That's why she hid you. Why she convinced you that you were broken, wolfless, empty. Because if you ever discovered what you truly were..." The pieces clicked into place. "She was afraid of me," Seren breathed. "All those years of cruelty. It wasn't disgust. It was fear." "Lady Vespera is many things," the old woman said grimly. "But she is not a fool. She recognized the winter wolf the moment you were born. Recognized that you could undo everything her bloodline had built." Caius stiffened beside her. "Her bloodline?" The old woman's smile turned cold. "Oh, did she not tell you? Lady Vespera is descended from the witch who cast the curse. The fire witch who damned your family 3 centuries ago." Silence crashed through the cave. "She's been trying to ensure the curse claims Valdrin kings for generations," the old woman continued. "Marriage after marriage, daughter after daughter, all designed to get close enough to watch them burn. And when you chose Seren Caius, when you chose the one woman who could break it, Vespera panicked." Seren's mind reeled. Her mother wasn't just cruel. She was calculated, deliberate. A weapon forged across centuries, aimed at a throne. "She'll try again," Seren said. "She's already trying." The old woman's expression darkened. "I felt her crossing the eastern pass 2 days ago. She moves faster than you did, knows paths you don't. She brings something with her. Something old and terrible. Something that should have stayed buried." Caius was on his feet instantly. "We need to return to the castle. You need to prepare for war." The old woman rose, suddenly seeming far larger than her frail body suggested. "The winter wolf is awake, but she is not yet fully realized. You must embrace what you are, child. All of it. The cold. The wolf. The ancient power that sleeps in your blood. Only then can you destroy the curse completely and stop Vespera for good." She pressed something into Seren's hands, a shard of ice, clear as crystal, cold as death. "When the time comes," the old woman said, "you'll know what to do." They rode through the night. The horses were exhausted, foaming at the mouth, but Caius pushed them relentlessly. Seren clung to him, her pulse spiking, that shard of ice pressed against her chest. She'd been lied to her entire life. She wasn't broken, wasn't empty, wasn't defective. She was something ancient, something powerful, something her mother had tried to destroy, and now her mother was coming. They crested the final ridge as dawn broke, and stopped. Smoke rose from the castle of Valdrin. "No," Caius breathed. They thundered down the mountain, through the gates, into a courtyard littered with fallen guards. The castle was chaos, servants fleeing, soldiers shouting, the smell of blood and burning thick in the air. And standing in the center of it all, her silver-streaked hair wild, her eyes blazing with madness, was Lady Vespera. She wasn't alone. Behind her, towering and terrible, was a creature of living flame. A wolf made of fire, its body crackling and shifting, its eyes twin furnaces of rage. The fire wolf, the original curse, given form. "Mother," Seren said. Vespera turned, and her smile was poison. "Hello, daughter. I've been waiting." The fire wolf roared. Flames erupted across the courtyard, consuming everything they touched. Soldiers screamed as fire licked at their armor. Stone blackened and cracked. The very air became an inferno. Caius threw himself in front of Seren, his body a shield. But he wasn't fireproof, not anymore. Without the curse fully dormant, he was vulnerable. A man who could burn. How touching, Vespera called over the chaos, the king protecting his broken little bride. Tell me, Caius, does she still feel empty inside? Does she still believe she's worthless? She's worth more than you could ever comprehend, Caius snarled. Is she? Vespera's laugh was jagged. Let me tell you what she really is, Your Majesty. Let me tell you what I've spent 23 years trying to prevent. The fire wolf prowled closer, its heat blistering. My ancestor cast a curse on your bloodline, Vespera said. Fire to burn any king who dared to love. For 300 years it worked perfectly. King after king, dying in flames of their own making. And then you came along. She pointed at Seren. The universe's answer to my ancestor's curse. A creature of ice born to counter a line of fire. The moment I saw what you were, I knew I had to destroy you, suppress your power, convince you that you were nothing, because if you ever awakened, she'd break the curse, Caius finished, which she will. She pushed it back. Vespera spat. Temporarily, but the fire wolf is the curse's heart. Its source. With it unleashed, the curse returns to full strength. And this time, there's no dormancy. This time, it burns everything. She raised her hand. The fire wolf lunged. Seren moved without thinking. She pushed past Caius, planting herself in the creature's path, and reached for the cold inside her. It came instantly, eager, hungry, and desperate to be unleashed. Ice exploded from her hands. It met the fire wolf mid-leap, and the collision was cataclysmic. Steam erupted in a blinding cloud. The ground shook. Windows shattered throughout the castle. When the steam cleared, the fire wolf was still standing. But it was smaller now. Flickering. Uncertain. Impossible, Vespera hissed. I'm done being afraid of you, Seren said. Her voice resonated with power, that layered quality she'd heard once before, the night her mother had first tried to take her. I'm done believing your lies. She stepped forward. Ice spread from her footsteps, coating the ground, climbing the walls. You told me I was broken, empty, unlovable. Another step. The fire wolf retreated. You told me I had no wolf, no beast, no worth. The shard of ice in her hand began to glow. But I was never empty. Seren's eyes blazed, not gold like Caius's, but white, pure, burning white. I was waiting. For 23 years I was waiting for this moment. She remembered the visions the old woman had shown her, the kingdom beneath the glaciers, the woman made of ice, the wolf carved from snow, her wolf, not absent, not dead. Just sleeping, like her, waiting to be awakened. Seren threw her head back and howled. It wasn't a human sound. It was the cry of winter storms, of avalanches, of the endless dark between stars. It was the voice of something ancient and primal and utterly unstoppable. And from the depths of her soul, her wolf finally answered. Cold exploded outward. Frost consumed the courtyard in an instant, coating the fire wolf, climbing Vespera's legs, spreading across every surface in a crystalline wave. The temperature plummeted so fast that breath turned to vapor, that metal cracked, that the flames sputtered and died. The fire wolf screamed. It was a terrible sound, rage and pain and betrayal twisted together. 300 years of curse, of hatred, of burning, ending in a single frozen moment. Then it shattered. Fragments of ice scattered across the courtyard, glittering in the morning light. The curse was gone. Not just dormant, but destroyed. Unmade at its source. Vespera stood frozen, literally frozen. Ice encased her from toe to shoulder, leaving only her face exposed. Her eyes were wide with terror, her mouth open in a silent scream. Seren walked toward her. You spent my entire life trying to destroy me, she said quietly. You convinced me I was worthless. You nearly killed me with wolfsbane. You tried to burn the man I love. She stopped directly in front of her mother. "But I'm not going to kill you." Vespera's eyes widened. Death would be a mercy. Seren's smile was cold as her power. "Instead, you're going to live. You're going to watch as everything you tried to prevent comes true. The curse is broken. The Valdrin kings are free. And I am going to rule beside the man you tried to destroy." She leaned closer. "Every day, for the rest of your life, you'll know that your own daughter was stronger than 300 years of hatred. That love defeated fire. That I won." She stepped back. "Take her to the dungeons," Caius ordered. "She'll stand trial for treason, murder, and conspiracy against the crown." Guards moved forward, chipping away enough ice to drag Vespera away. She didn't fight, didn't speak. Her gaze stayed fixed on Seren until she disappeared from sight. Then it was over. Seren's knees buckled. Caius caught her before she hit the ground, his arms wrapping around her, his face pressed into her hair. "You did it," he breathed. "You saved us all." "We saved each other." She was trembling, not from cold, never from cold, but from the enormity of what had happened. "That's how it works." He pulled back to look at her face. His amber eyes were shining. "I love you," he said. The words didn't trigger flames or fever or death, just truth. "I love you too," Seren whispered. He kissed her, and for the first time in 3 centuries, the Alpha King of Valdrin loved without fear. 1 year later. The great hall of Valdrin had never looked more beautiful. Banners of crimson and silver hung from every rafter. Flowers carpeted the floor. Nobles from every territory had gathered, not for a wedding this time, but for something even more significant. A coronation. Seren walked down the aisle, her head held high. She wore white this time, a gown of crystalline silk that shimmered like frost. Her dark hair flowed freely down her back, and on her brow, catching the light, sat a crown of ice that never melted. Caius waited at the throne. He was smiling, that warm, genuine smile she'd learned to coax from him over months of love and laughter. The coldness was gone entirely now. In its place was a man who laughed easily, loved freely, and looked at her like she was the only person in the world. She climbed the steps to join him. "Ready?" he murmured. "Always." The priest spoke the words of coronation, ancient vows binding Seren to the realm. She repeated them clearly, feeling their weight settle onto her shoulders like a mantle. And then Caius lifted the crown from her head, the ice crown that was part of her now, and replaced it with another. Gold and rubies, crafted to fit perfectly beside his own. "I crown you Queen of Valdrin," he announced, his voice carrying through the hall. "My equal in all things, my partner in all decisions, my heart, now and forever." The hall erupted in cheers. In the crowd, she spotted familiar faces. Nell, tears streaming down her cheeks, clapping harder than anyone. The guards who had stood with them during the final battle. Council members who had once doubted her, now bowing with genuine respect. And near the back, standing alone, her younger sister, Mira. Their eyes met. Mira had written 3 months ago, asking for forgiveness. Asking if there was any place for her in Seren's new life. Seren had invited her to the coronation. It was a start. Perhaps in time they could build something new, a sisterhood untainted by their mother's poison. Mira inclined her head. A small gesture, an acknowledgement. Serene nodded back. Then she turned to the man beside her. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For seeing me." She touched his face. "When everyone else looked through me, you saw me. Even hiding in a servant's corridor. Even covered in shadows." Caius's smile softened. "I couldn't help it," he said. "Something in you called to something in me. Winter recognizing fire, ice finding flame." He pulled her close. We were made for each other, Seren. I know that now. Whatever force shaped you, whatever power created me, it was building toward this moment. Toward us. Toward us. He kissed her then, in front of the entire realm, in front of gods and mortals and everything between. In the dungeons far below, Lady Vespera sat in her cell, surrounded by walls of ice that never melted. She would live a long time, Seren had made sure of that. Long enough to watch her daughter rule. Long enough to see the realm flourish. Long enough to understand, truly understand, the magnitude of her failure. Some fates were worse than death. This was one of them. Months later, Seren stood in the gardens, her hand resting on the swell of her belly. The child inside her stirred, not with fire, not with ice, but with something new. Something that was both and neither. A bridge between powers, a union of opposites. Caius's hand covered hers. "Do you think she'll have your eyes?" he asked. "She?" Seren smiled. "What makes you so certain?" "A feeling." He kissed her temple. "The same feeling that led me to that servants' corridor a year ago." "And what does that feeling tell you about our daughter?" Caius considered. "That she'll be extraordinary," he said finally. "That she'll be loved. That she'll never, ever believe she's broken." Seren leaned into him, watching the sun set over the mountains of Valdren. Her mother had said she was too broken to be loved, but her mother had been wrong, because sometimes the broken pieces fit together in ways no one expected. Sometimes the empty spaces were just waiting to be filled, and sometimes the woman everyone dismissed as worthless turned out to be the most valuable of all. Seren closed her eyes. She could feel her wolf now, that presence of winter and snow, curled contentedly inside her. She could feel her husband beside her, warm and steady and utterly devoted. She could feel her daughter growing, a promise of futures yet to come. "I love you," she said, and meant it with every fractured, mended, perfect piece of her heart. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it and would like to support the channel, please subscribe, leave a comment, and share with someone who loves romance. Your support means everything. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. I read every single one, and they mean more than you know. Until next time.